So much. It's a very difficult time to many South African women and children. Just as Women's Month was coming to an end, South Africa's boxing champion Leighandre "Baby Lee" Jegels was killed by an ex-boyfriend. Last week, another young woman, a UCT student, went missing and was later found killed. While everyone else is still recovering from that, a 14-year-old was also found buried behind a grandmother's house, and a 6-year-old was kidnapped yesterday outside her school, but fortunately she was later found. Really shocking times to be a woman here in South Africa, and also raising a child. But to take this discussion further, I have in studio with me the Interim Steering Committee on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide co-chairperson, Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good afternoon, Palestine. Thank you for having us.
As I said on my introduction, what an awful way to close Women's Month. And some people say that you've got these cases happening more on Women's Month than at any time of the year.
Not true. It happens every day. As we speak now, something is happening to a woman, a South African child. It happens every day. It's just that they don't get to the media in the minute that these other ones have found themselves in the media. So on a daily basis, a South African woman is either killed, raped, sexually assaulted, sexually violated, sexually harassed.
That's the conversation that I was having with my co-host yesterday, to say that these kind of cases are happening on a daily basis. I think research indicates about 3 women are killed in South Africa on a daily basis. But it's just that most of them do not make it to the media. They do not make it to social media. But this shows that South Africa has actually reached a crisis proportions when it comes to violence.
We said it last year, 1st of November, that it's a national crisis, right? We had a declaration that was signed by the President and civil society, articulating the very same point, that it's a national crisis. The response has to be that to a national crisis, right? So when we say that we're in a crisis, the response can't be business as usual, right? That we wait for 2 deaths, 3 deaths that make it onto the media. It's a national crisis at that point, and it continues to be a national crisis
even now. Right? And the reality, Sis Brenda, is we're tired of hearing statements such as we condemn the
I know.
We're tired of marching.
Of course.
We're tired of wearing black with our dukes. We are tired of going on social media to condemn this incident.
Exactly.
We had a gender-based violence in November last year. What needs to happen? What is it that has to happen now that has not been happening in the past?
I think what has happened now, and I think you have seen it with the outrage that has come out to the fore, right? And what we have done, and I think it's what South African women are saying to their fellow men, is that we have done what we could do. For the many years that we have been bringing this to your attention, to the entire country's attention, now it's your time. Show us what you are made of. If you believe that you are a man and you are respectful of another human being and a woman who's supposed to be your partner, and you have said you love that individual, demonstrate that with actions. Why would you think that it's okay to be violent? Why do you show your machismo and masculinity through violence? So we are standing back. Can you come up and do what you're supposed to do as men?
So the ball is in their court.
In their court. I mean, listen, as you rightly said, we have done enough. The dukes and the wearing of black, the marches, they stop now. We want them to come to the fore and hold each other accountable. They have failed to do that on a number of cases, on a number of times. They hide behind all sorts of things. They know, all of them. If we had to ask all of them here at the SABC, how many women they know and men that they know have abused other women, they can tell you, but they will not openly say it, right? They perpetuate the secrecy. They perpetuate the silence. So can they start being responsible? If they're outraged, the same way that we are, let them stand up.
We've seen a number of them coming out on social media yesterday saying that we are trash. That's what some of them were saying. But the question is, what conversations are they supposed to be having? And I was saying to you off air earlier that I attended a women's event this past weekend, and this woman said, listen, my husband used to abuse me, and my fear is to see my child relive what his father did to other women. So we should start having these conversations to a boy child.
Of course.
Are we having enough conversations with the perpetrators of this violence?
I don't think we are having those conversations enough. We have been talking amongst ourselves as women because our pain is raw, right? And for the longest of time, we could not talk with men across each other because immediately you address these issues, men think that you are taking them, right? So we want them to pause and look at it in this way. It's not about them. It's about what that institution represents of male privilege, right? They've been privileged for many years through customs, culture, and practices, right? The entire patriarchal system has privileged them, right? They believe that this body that is yours and mine belongs to them, that they can do with it the way they want, right? And if you ask them, who told you and taught you that a woman's body is yours and you can take it at any given time, they will point you to their fathers and their uncles. They'll point to their friends, right? They'll point to when they meet as men and the conversations that they have about women. I mean, the men must tell us the conversations that they have about us. It's not good what they say about the women in their lives. The only women that men respect are their mothers.
Their mothers.
That's it. The rest, they don't see it in that way. So when I teach my son that when you decide to lift a hand on a woman, you are lifting it on your mother, he understood it. Because I said, if you lift a finger or a hand on another woman, you are doing it to me as your mother. So understand it in that manner.
So I'm just going to put you in a bit of an awkward position here. You're an advocate.
Yeah.
The justice system, is it failing us as women? You've got women who've been killed and they had protection orders against their partners, but this still happened to them. So what does this say about the justice system? What does it say about the respect that men have towards documents such as a protection order that's supposed to protect women from violence?
Okay. It says a number of things, right? We don't want to get to that point where you have to go and seek a protection order. Our primary focus currently as a country and to all South Africans, 58 million of us, is on prevention. We have to prevent and end gender-based violence and femicide. That's priority, right? In the event that in the process of preventing it, there are cases that present themselves at the police station, for instance, where you report an abuse by your intimate partner or any other man. You expect to receive service at the police station. You don't expect a policeman to tell you or a policewoman to tell you that you must go and sort it out at home, right? Now, when you have then received a protection order because you are granted that protection order for a very good reason, that you need to protect yourself against this individual who's threatening violence against you. You expect that individual to respect that protection order, right? Respect it. So what has been happening in this country is that people are lawless. They've got no respect for the rule of law, right? They can do as they please with impunity because there are no consequences for all of us, right? Oh, I can get away with it. Oh, I can bribe a clerk of the court. I can bribe a prosecutor. The docket can disappear, right? And it has happened and it continues to happen, right? Until such time, we as citizens stand up and make it impossible for police officers, for law enforcement agencies to cut corners and understand their role in maintaining rule of law and order. We'll continue to have these kinds of cases where women are literally dismissed and are failed by the justice system.
So I suppose there's a number of elements that goes into this problem. Let's just talk about the work of the steering committee. You started in around March. How far have you gone? Where is that national strategic plan that's supposed to address all the problems?
It's a strategic document. We have a draft now, from March up until now in September. We have a draft that is now being consulted upon in the 9 provinces. We have already concluded the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, Limpopo. We're now going to, this weekend I'm doing Northern Cape. Other colleagues from the steering committee will be going to Mpumalanga. We finish off with the Free State and Northwest and Gauteng the week of the 13th. When we are done, our work is concluded, because we would have given this government a document, a roadmap on how we address and end gender-based violence and femicide in this country. It's a document that will be costed. It has to be costed, because when you implement it, there has to be a budget allocation towards it, right? So that it works, right? As of October, when we hand it over to the relevant government institutions, especially the president, is that they will then have to ensure that every single government department, because you see, Palace, for a long time, gender-based violence was seen to be a problem of either Ministry of Women or Justice. So when you have a problem, you have an issue, you are sent from pillar to post because no one wants to take responsibility of this issue, right? Not anymore. That stops, and it stops now. We have the silo mentality is not going to work to end gender-based violence. We are working, it's a coordinated approach to gender-based violence. As I said earlier, it requires you and I, the 58 million other South Africans, to have a stake in ending it, right? So government in its approach is going to be that. It's coordinated. Every department, whether you are transport, whether you are mining, whether you are environment, whether you are communications, you have a role.
Everyone will take part.
Absolutely. It's not a justice issue.
But the concern that South Africans have on documents is that we've got beautiful policies on paper.
True.
How will the steering committee, I don't know where your job will end once the document is handed to the president, but their surety and just to ensure that whatever is contained in that document will be implemented, so that it's not just a piece of paper that's sitting there. And
the beauty of it is that it requires all of us to do something, right? So there'll be specific things that must be done by the private sector. There's specific things that must be done by civil society. There's specific things that must be done by government. Specific things that must be done by the religious sector. Specific things that must be done by the traditional leaders. All of us have got a stake. So no one can sit back and claim not to know that this is a problem for this country.
We'll all have to play
all have to play our part. So it's a living document. It requires all of us. So if all of us are outraged and believe that we need to rid this society of the scourge of violence against women and children and femicide, then you have a stake in understanding what is in that document and playing your part.
All right, time constraints. I wish we could carry on with this discussion, but we'll leave it at this for now. Thank you so much for coming through.
You're most welcome, and thank you.
All right, well, there you have it. That's Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo. She is co-chairing the Interim Steering Committee on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide in the presidency. And I think really the gist of the conversation that I've just had with her is a challenge that she puts out there to men to say, what are you doing? What conversations are you having on women? Please share those conversations at SA_Today_SABC. It is our Twitter handle. Would really love to hear from you. We're taking a quick break now on SA Today. Your business news is up next.